बीजनवल्लभा गिरिवरधारी बीजनवल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जना यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जना यमुना तीरावनचारी जय ओम विष्णु पाद परमहंस परिव्रजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर सदस्य श्रीमद अभय चरणारविंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। जय ओम विष्णु पाद परमहंस परिव्रजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर सदस्य श्रीमद भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्त वृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय। ब्रजभूमि श्री वृंदावन धाम की जय। मायापुर श्री नवद्वीप धाम की जय। मथुरा धाम की जय। द्वारका धाम की जय। जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय। गंगा माई की जय। यमुना माई की जय। भक्ति देवी की जय। तुलसी महारानी की जय। समवेत गौरभक्त वृंद की जय। गौरभक्त प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। ऑल glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna devotees, welcome for ISKCON Seshadripuram's morning Srimad Bhagavatam class. Today I have been asked to take up 4th canto, 8th chapter, verse number 43 and 44, if I remember right. Yes, 43 and 44. So 4th canto, 8th chapter. 8th chapter is entitled Dhruva Maharaj Leaves Home. Just I'll quickly pick up the verse on the internet. Eighth canto is entitled Withdrawal of the Cosmic Creations. 8th chapter. This is not, that is 8th canto what I talked about. 4th canto, the creation of the 4th order. Chapter 8, Dhruva Maharaj leaves home for the forest. Verse number 43. Verse number 43. Okay, should be seeing the screen now. I'll read the verse. Snatvanu shravanam tasmin kalindyaha salile sile shive कृत्वोचितानि निवसन् आत्मनः कल्पितासनः. Word by word meaning. I will read once more. Snatvanusavanam tasmin kalindyaha salile shive कृत्वोचितानि निवसन् आत्मनः कल्पितासनः. स्नात्वानुसवनं तस्मिन् कालिन्द्याः सलिले शिवे कृत्वोचित्तानि निवसन् आत्मनः कल्पितासनः. Word by word meaning. Snatva, after taking bath. Anusavanam, 3 times. Tasmin, in that. Kalindyaha, in the river Kalindi, the Yamuna. Salile, in the water, Shive, which is very auspicious. Kritva, performing. Uchithani, suitable. Nivasan, sitting. Atmanaha, of the self. Kalpita asanaha, having prepared a sitting place. Translation. Narada Muni instructed, my dear boy, in the waters of the Yamuna river, which is known as Kalindi, you should take 3 baths daily because the water is very auspicious, sacred and clear. After bathing, you should perform the necessary regulative principles for Ashtanga Yoga and then sit down on your asana, sitting place, in a calm and quiet position. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. It appears from this statement that Dhruva Maharaja had already been instructed how to practice the eightfold yoga system, which is known as Ashtanga Yoga. This system is explained in our Bhagavad Gita as it is in the chapter entitled Dhyana Yoga. It is understood that in Ashtanga Yoga, one practices settling the mind and then concentrating it on the form of Lord Vishnu, as will be described in the following verses. It is clearly stated here that Ashtanga Yoga is not a bodily gymnastic exercise, but a practice to concentrate the mind on the form of Vishnu. Before sitting on his asana, which is also described in Bhagavad Gita, one has to cleanse himself very nicely in clear or sacred water thrice daily. The water of the Yamuna is naturally very clear and pure, and thus if anyone bathes there 3 times, undoubtedly he will be very greatly purified externally. Narada Muni therefore instructed Dhruva Maharaja to go to the bank of the Yamuna and thus become externally purified. This is part of the gradual process of practicing mystic yoga. The next verse. Pranayamena trivrata pranendriya manomalam sanair vyudasya deyayen manasa guruna grum. Word by word meaning. Pranayamena, by breathing exercise. Trivrata, by the 3 recommended ways. Prana Indriya, the life air and the senses. Manaha, mind. Malam, impurity. Sanaihi, gradually. Vyudasya, giving up. Abhideyayet, meditate upon. Manasa, by the mind. Guruna, undisturbed. Gurum, the supreme spiritual master Krishna. Translation. After sitting on your seat, practice the 3 kinds of breathing exercises and thus gradually control the life air, the mind and the senses. Completely free yourself from all material contamination and with great patience begin to meditate on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. In this verse, the entire yoga system is described in summary and special stress is given to the breathing exercise for stopping the disturbing mind. The mind by nature is always oscillating, for it is very fickle, but the breathing exercise is meant to control it. This process of controlling the mind might have been very possible in those days, millions of years ago, when Dhruva Maharaja took to it. But at the present moment, the mind has to be fixed directly on the lotus feet of the Lord by the chanting process. By chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, one immediately concentrates on the sound vibration and thinks of the lotus feet of the Lord, and very quickly one is elevated to the position of samadhi or trance. If one goes on chanting the holy name of the Lord, which are not different from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, naturally his mind becomes absorbed in thought of the Lord. It is here recommended to Dhruva Maharaja that he meditate on the Supreme Guru or Supreme Spiritual Master. The Supreme Spiritual Master is Krishna, who is therefore known as Chaitya Guru. This refers to the super soul who is sitting in everyone's heart. He helps from within as stated in Bhagavad Gita, and he sends the spiritual master who helps from without. The spiritual master is the external manifestation of the Chaitya Guru, or the spiritual master sitting in everyone's heart. The process by which we give up our thoughts of material things is called pratyahara, which entitles being freed from all material thoughts and engagement. The word abhidhyayet, which is used in this verse, indicates that unless one's mind is fixed, one cannot meditate. The conclusion, therefore, is that meditation means thinking of the Lord within. Whether one comes to that stage by the Ashtanga Yoga system or by the method recommended in the Shastras, especially for this present age, to constantly chant the holy name of the Lord, the goal is to meditate on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Urminitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadantisva Padantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tamsa Jivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrinda Vaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namavom Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabho Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaurabhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Hari Ki Om Tat Sat. So this verse is, as we said, in this chapter called Dhruva Maharaja Leaves Home. So you have been discussing this for quite some time. We have been discussing this for quite some time. So the background is Dhruva Maharaja feels humiliated by the words of his stepmother. When he wanted to sit on the lap of his father, who was the king, the stepmother dissuaded him, saying, he is not qualified to sit on his father's lap, and that only her son is qualified because she was born from her womb. And unfortunately, that Dhruva Maharaj was not in her womb, that he is not qualified like this. So we discussed earlier, when I took this earlier class, that the king was somehow more captivated by his second wife, and even though he had his affection for his son, first wife's son Dhruva Maharaj also, he could not say anything and he kept quiet. So this child, was very upset. And therefore he went to his mother crying, and his mother said, yes, what she says is true. Somehow I am not favored by your father, and only shelter for us is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You go search him out and make your desire felt to him, so that he actually makes your desires fulfilled. So he goes to the forest, and on this way he meets Narada Muni. And Narada Muni, hearing this conversation, he is very transcendental, he knows. So he heard, Prabhupada writes in some of the verses, Narada Muni overheard like this. So anyway, Narada Muni came to hear what the discussion was, and he was trying to help the boy. Then he first tells Dhruva Maharaj, this is all very difficult. Krishna is not easy to be got. It's not an easy thing to just go and take darshan of Krishna. And you are a small boy, and how does it matter? Okay, how does her words matter? You are after all a small child. You are supposed to be playing. right? Frivolous games. So you go and play. Why do you worry about all these big things like that? But Dhruva Maharaj, being a Kshatriya, this is also mentioned. Kshatriyas are very, very affected by lack of honor. So he immediately took it to to the depth of his heart, and he felt, this is such an insult to me, even though he's just a 5-year-old boy. So he says, Narada Muni gives him many instructions that, how we should take things in life, all this generally. And Dhruva Maharaj responds back to him saying, see, this is all nice if whatever you say will reach the heart of someone who's gone through a lot of difficulties, and then he's in a position to hear all these things and take consolence. But somehow I am in ignorance. Just imagine a 5-year-old boy speaking with so much clarity. He says, I am in ignorance. So whatever you said does not penetrate my heart and does not make me to take up to these things. But if you can kindly let me know how I can actually have darshan of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then Narada Muni becomes very compassionate. Seeing his determination, then he gives this instruction. So this section is about how Narada Muni is giving instructions to Dhruva Maharaj. So here, let me read the translation again. Narada Muni instructed, my dear boy, in the waters of the Yamuna river, which is known as Kalindi, you should take 3 baths daily, because the water is very auspicious, sacred and clear. After bathing, you should perform the necessary regulative principles for Ashtanga Yoga, and then sit down on your asana, sitting place, in a calm and quiet position. So this is his first instruction. Now let's try to discuss a little bit about this. So now if you really look at it, this is nice that in those days, this Ashtanga Yoga practice was like normal, like it is known to a 5-year-old boy. Here Narada Muni is giving a class on how to do Ashtanga Yoga, right? He is simply saying, you should perform the necessary regulative principles for Ashtanga Yoga. He is simply saying that. He does not say what all he needs to do, at least now. So he is simply saying, you just sit and do Ashtanga, do the regulative principles for Ashtanga Yoga. That means the preparatory work for that. And then you have to perform the Ashtanga Yoga like that. And that means the boy already knows about this. So he's either learnt it previously from his father or from his teacher. But this is very common for most people to know Ashtanga Yoga in that time. So that is important. So the Ashtanga Yoga, we all know, there are many aspects to it. I am not able to recall all of them together, but it is Yama, Niyama, then Asana, then like this Dharana, Pratyahara, Dharana, up to the Samadhi. These are the 8-fold aspects of eightfold process. So ultimately the Ashtanga Yoga's the idea of an Ashtanga Yoga is to control the mind and purify it of the senses, control the mind and purify the senses and bring it to a point of meditating on the Supreme Personality of Godhead after giving up material attachment. So this is summary of what any yoga is supposed to achieve, particularly even Ashtanga Yoga. The idea is to fix the mind and finally to have darshan of the Supreme Lord as the Chaitya Guru, here it is also mentioned, or the Paramatma. So all yoga conclude finally when one is able to take darshan of the Lord in their heart as Paramatma. So that is the process, and for that the preliminary thing is Yama, Niyama. Even in Bhakti Yoga we do all these things, right? In a way it is slightly different, but our focus is also same, that we should come to this point of detachment for material things and have attachment to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And of course the end game is much more higher than the Yogasana, where we are actually even wanting to go to the point of having a wonderful relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this point of Samadhi is achieved by a devotee even in this body, and even but a Samadhi is in the Bhakti Yoga process, Samadhi is considered the basic. That means that is the first stage. But in Ashtanga Yoga, that is the last stage. Here the Samadhi is getting liberation from material conception of life and being situated in the pure spirit platform. That is samadhi. For a pure spiritual platform means in the constitutional position of understanding that I am a part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and I am a servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Not that I am a part and parcel and therefore I am sort of like or I am God. You may be like God, but you are not God. So, but you understand, I am a part and parcel as in someone who is to be engaged in serving the whole. The part is engaged in serving the whole, but the part cannot claim to be the whole. So this is the basic understanding for one who is practicing Bhakti Yoga. But for Ashtanga Yoga, the ultimate aim is to have darshan of the Supreme Lord, not even in the perfect form as the Supreme Lord, or not even as Mahavishnu, but as the Paramatma in the heart. That is basically, here Prabhupada refers in the next verse as Chaitya Guru. So now let's see a little bit more. And also some practical lessons for us is that how to deal with children, right? So the psychology of how children have to be treated when they are young is very, very important. That the child's mind sometimes, we think, oh, it's after all a child. But in reality, what we need to understand is the child is also a soul, and he or she has got its own experiences from many past lives. And whatever impressions we create in the mind of the child at this point in time when the child is very tender, that is very, very important. And if that is missed, then one, from a spiritual elevation point of view, if that is missed, then to make people devotees is very difficult. That is why in those days, the Gurukula system, you can see this Dhruva Maharaj here, or Prahalad Maharaj elsewhere. Like this, when the child at the young age, if you are nicely giving Krishna consciousness, then they are perfectly situated for being the perfect personalities in their life. But if we miss it out, then it is very difficult. Today we are trying to go on, but the child life is completely messed up. And after that, you sort of try and go and preach Krishna consciousness. It takes so many years to make one devotee. It takes so many years. You have to give lots of blood to make one devotee. Practically, we are seeing in our Bhakti Vriksha system also. But some devotees are very much empowered. They make many devotees. But in spite of that, making someone a very nice and pure devotee is much more difficult. Like Prabhupada writes, if one person becomes a devotee after reading my Bhagavad Gita as it is, then my mission is fulfilled like that. So it's not very easy. But even to make people take to the process, forget about making them great devotees, but even to make them take to the process is very difficult if they are not exposed to devotional life at a very young age. And other things, if you come down a little below that in terms of the material things or even for spiritual things, it is very important that the right attitude and mood is set for the children at the young age. So if the parents don't set a very good example, the children will not be able to take it up. It's very, very difficult. If they see the parents themselves not having proper standards, if the parents are having double standards, or there are so many conflicts within the family, then the children are observing it all the time. Then it's not that they will ignore all these things and then they will become a wonderful devotee. Because the parents are the examples. This is psychology also. For the child, the first superhero is the father and maybe the mother. Not maybe, the mother and the father. I was just thinking in terms of the boy looks up to the father and the girl looks up to the mother, girl child or the boy child. So if we are able to set a very good example to the children, then the children automatically takes it up. Many people say, oh, how to make our children devotees? Many times people ask these questions. Simple. You see, child's mind is fertile. Child's mind is very fertile. So if you sow the right seeds, then the tree or the plant which comes up will also be very nice. But then if we leave that and do everything and then try to say how I can make it, give me so many tips, best tips is that, we are ourselves proper and the child is seeing that. That is the first and most more thing. So that is difficult also, because, so that is the continuous process. So as good as I am, then to that extent I can bring my child. Of course, then the child also has its own past, the experiences in different lives. But then this one makes a lot of influence that we need to be mindful. We can't say, oh, anyway, that is driven by his karma, things will happen. No. Because spiritual life is independent of your karma. So if we are able to give the right attitude, right mood, then that jiva who can use his independence to take it to devotional life happens. Otherwise it becomes very difficult. So here Dhruva Maharaj, in a way, because of this wrong experience that he got, fortunately he got to get to the side of devotional service. But it's generally very difficult. Generally people, when you get to the wrong exposure, people are even more going into the wrong side of things. They may become criminals, they may become psychopaths. So many things we are seeing. Children, because of the wrong treatment meted out to them at their young age, take to so many antisocial element activities. These things happen. But some people also get to the opposite side, getting immediately frustrated with material life and go to the spiritual side of it, which can happen. But we can't take it like that. That okay, so let them get frustrated. Let me give them bad experience in life. That doesn't happen like that. We need to set a good example, and of course, if the child has to be very bad, that will anyway happen. That's a different story. But generally, as I keep saying again and again, that fertile age, anywhere between 2 to 6 years, is the time when the impressions are made, and these impressions carry through for the life. So what impressions we give at that age is very important. Okay, that is one. And of course, this in this Prabhupada is later talking about the Ashtanga Yoga is not a gymnastic exercise. Yes, that is important. That in modern world, that's why everywhere Prabhupada, whenever yoga is mentioned, Prabhupada actually cautions people about that. This yoga system is not simply for bodily exercises. It is for meditating on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he uses this words gymnastics also very often, because people think these asanas are all gymnastics. So that is not the case. The idea of all these asanas are to control the mind and the senses. And again, control it for what? Controlling it to achieve higher material success. That is how people see it in today's context. That means people become so sharp focused that they are able to be more productive. So the CEOs all attend the Ashtanga, these cannot generally yogasanas thing, and in companies people are encouraged to attend yoga classes. And what are this objective? The objective is that the person becomes more focused, and he can actually focus on even in his personal life and also in his official things, so that he is becoming more productive. That is how it is seen. And productivity here means becomes more materially opulent, becomes more successful materially. This is how the whole thing is interpreted in today's world. But Prabhupada very clearly clarifies and says that this is more towards controlling the senses. And here Prabhupada is also mentioning, if you see, if you are not able to rid yourself of material contamination, you cannot enter the spiritual world. So this is there, that even in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada is writing very clearly, unless you become completely freed of your material contaminations, then you cannot enter the spiritual world. So sometimes we don't give too much importance to it, but these things needs to be highlighted very often. So people generally want to know, it's okay, I will chant and I will also have a lot of material attachment. That is not okay. That may be okay in the beginning stages, but as devotees progress, here I see all are like, here these sessions are mainly attended by people who are very regular in their thing. So somewhere along the line, we should remind ourselves that this material contamination is something which we need to take away from our head. So slowly and steadily we should be progressing, and of course this is a life journey in our, even in Krishna conscious journey. So it will there, as we progress in our devotional life, we will progress. So this point about anartha nivritti, right, the fourth stage in the bhakti steps, that means Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, that kind of a thing. We go in that process, and in that the other aspect is this Shraddha, then Sadhu Sangha, then what is that? Bhajana Kriya. So Shraddha is when with strong faith we take up devotional life, and then we have Sadhu Sangha, which actually firms up that faith. Then Bhajana Kriya, then we are more and more into devotional life. So generally we are in these three stages initially. More often we are in Sadhu Sangha, and more often we are in Bhajana Kriya. That means in Sadhu Sangha we are performing devotional services, Bhajana Kriya. Then this Anartha Nivritti goes on for a long time. This Anartha Nivritti, but my point here is that unless we are conscious of this Anartha Nivritti is there, and we need to do this Anartha Nivritti, it is not easy. Then it will go on for a longer time. Chanting and being consciously trying to remove these Anartha Nivrittis, removing the weeds from our heart. Otherwise it will take more longer time, because when we are understanding and then acting, then the results are even faster. But if you are not understanding and doing, results will come, but it may take longer. That's why Prabhupada says that it's not about initiation. You take initiation, but you need to follow. Unless you follow, you won't get to the spiritual world like this. So there are more, as we go further, we become more and more refined. So for example, we say, okay, you take prasadam, that is okay. We say that, right? You take prasadam, be happy. We say that is nice. Then why are Maharajas are eating, very austere prasadam also? And sometimes we take these things lightly. No, you chant, that is enough. You preach, that is enough. No, that is fine, that is nice. But if you have to even become more stronger and steadier, so that the chanting has more quicker effect, then we should be conscious of these things. We should be trying to clear our material contamination. Again, we understand what is material contamination. Not that we are trying to look at material things for sense gratification. We are looking to use them in the service of Krishna, and that whatever is accepted as prasada, that is okay, right? That we see Prabhupada always had this thing. No, it's not that therefore you completely give up everything and go to the forest. No, we are using everything in the service of the Krishna, and in the process we are using it. But again, then you can say, okay, then prasada, why not we completely eat nice things? Yes, we can absolutely eat. And that is perfect. There is nobody saying that no, you should not take opulent prasada. You can take, and that will take us back to Godhead. Yes, but then because we are so much conditioned in this material bodily thinking, that's the problem. If you are able to look at prasada as pure prasada and take it as Krishna's mercy, that is fine. But our consciousness is not like that. Even if it is offered prasada, we look at it as, oh, there is some, the salt is less, this is less, that is less. Because our mind is continuing to think like that. Therefore, to remove this, what do they, here it is said, right? To prepare ourselves properly, then we should pick up some austerities, so that we are conscious that our aim is to actually detach from material engagement. Our aim is to completely purify ourselves. So that is very, very, very important. Then here the next discussion point that Prabhupada is saying is, before sitting on the asanas, which is also described in the Bhagavad Gita, one has to cleanse himself very nicely in clear or sacred water thrice daily. Even in our bhakti yoga method, this process is recommended, that even when you are taking Brahmana initiation, that will be stressed that you should take bath thrice or twice daily minimum. So these are sometimes can be written, oh, these are all external, I don't care. No, they do have an impact on our consciousness. So every time we feel, right, when you take a bath, you feel fresh and you feel nice to chant. But if you are like so much sweaty and all that, you don't feel nice to chant. So these all create a nice environment for us to take up bhakti, the process of bhakti. And they are favorable. Like this, even here, Ashtanga Yoga, not that people go in the evening and then do yoga and then come back and take bath, right? You rarely see they do that, because they look at it as more as a bodily exercise, and therefore it is sweating, so I need to take bath nicely, and after the bath, what? Nicely watch TV, eat boga, and then sleep. This concept is material concept, but devotional concept is the other way around. That before doing the devotional service, we need to be very clean and fresh. So that is there. And Prabhupada is saying the water of the Yamuna is naturally very clear and pure, and thus if anyone baths there 3 times, undoubtedly he will be very greatly purified externally. So many people think, right, if I go to the river and take bath, go to Kaveri, I will become clean. I will get rid of, all the anarthas and all. No. Yes, it is there. That has also been mentioned in the Vedic scriptures. But Acharyas are trying to make us that, don't be complacent. Don't be complacent. Okay, just go to Ganga and take bath, and then you feel mentally, oh, all my sins have gone away. Yes, it goes away. But we should also understand it is a very long drawn process. That, you only take bath and clean your inner sins and all that. It is also that we should understand that this is not a kind of escapism. We need to be internally we should understand that if I just go and simply lose all of these things, I will be better. The idea should be I should not make these sins in my life. And of course, take the help of Mother Ganga, Mother Kaveri to see, Mother, please, I am so fallen, please help me remove some of these things, that kind of thing. So that's why Prabhupada is specifically writing that, the externally it is purified. He is saying Ganga is very clear and all that. And he is saying that, it's externally purified. So that is important, that while we should take all steps from our side and not simply expect others to help us to get rid of our anarthas. That is very favorable. Ganga, Yamuna, Kaveri, all these mothers will help remove all our things. But then, unless we are conscious, unless I am conscious that, if I am taking bath in Ganga and Yamuna, I am offloading my sins to Mother, how difficult it will be for her. Actually, this is there. The mothers go and cry to the Lord, oh Lord, everybody is offloading their sins on me and I am burdened, overburdened. So we should be conscious, I am troubling my mother with my consciousness, so I don't want to unnecessarily go and burden it. So these things will make us elevate our consciousness, and when we chant in that state, our progress becomes even more stronger. And now coming to the last sentence here, base 3 times, undoubtedly he will be very greatly purified externally. Then Narada Muni therefore instructed Dhruva Maharaja to go to the bank of the Yamuna and thus become externally purified. Again Prabhupada is writing externally purified. This is part of the gradual process of practicing mystic yoga. Therefore, he is saying, this is part of the gradual process of practicing. So therefore, this Yama, Niyama, all these things are a must. For us also to chant Hare Krishna, these regulative principles are a must. If we are not following regulative principles, but we are trying to do chanting, chanting is most powerful, no question about it. It will remove the anarthas, it will happen. But as I keep saying, if I am conscious and if I am taking proactive steps to improve my consciousness and also chant, the results will be faster. So, I've also heard in some classes by very senior Vaishnavas that this anartha nivritti can go on for 3-4 lives also. Right? They are chanting, but they are also having anarthas, lot of anartha, and for some it can go on to 3-4 lives also. So, therefore, what is important? The importance is if I am able to be conscious of these anarthas, and if I am also chanting nicely, then these two will together take us very close to the Supreme Personality of Godhead very fast. So that these are things which we should for example, today people are talking about, why don't you, they do workshops for chanting. Anyway, chanting will help, so I may simply chant. Why to attend these workshops to say, what is good chanting, what is bad chanting? Chanting is chanting. Then why do we attend those things? That is because then how can we make it more effective? That means chanting is pure. Again and again I keep saying, chanting is perfect. But our ability to chant nicely is the challenge. That is why some Prabhupada many times says, you chant once properly, you can go back to God. But then how to do that perfectly one time, I don't know. So you chant 16 rounds every day, all your life, maybe you will get that one time perfect. That means to get to that point of offenseless chanting. That is what we clearly know, at least that word I can use. Offenseless chanting is mentioned. That means we should get rid of all our anarthas. Most of the time we are envious of so many people. That is offensive chanting. Offense is not only to the naam. Offense is in different ways. So offenseless chanting means I should come to the state of purity. Then how? Purity means even from material contamination. There are so many things you can add on according to our level of consciousness. To the initial people will always say, yes, you chant, it is okay. You will get it. Yes, that's the starting point, but you need to try and improve it by the day. How do we keep on improving that? So this Ashtanga Yoga is applicable even for Bhakti Yoga. It is applicable. Now the next verse, I will read the translation once more and then we will discuss it. After sitting on your seat, practice the 3 kinds of breathing exercises and thus gradually control the life air, the mind and the senses. Completely free yourself from all material contamination. I discussed this earlier also. And with great patience, it's not like overnight effect. And even in Bhakti Yoga, every time every spiritual master speaks, anytime our Srila Prabhupada speaks, he uses the word gradually. Okay, great patience, begin to meditate on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in this verse also, Prabhupada is talking about controlling the mind. This Yogasana is for controlling the mind. And Arjuna is saying, oh Krishna, this mind is so big chanchala that it is very difficult to control. It is like the wind. It is very difficult to control the mind. And then Krishna says, yes, by practice it can happen. First he says by practice. Then he uses the word, if you are focused on me, it will happen. So the practice and on what? On focusing on Krishna. These 2 things are very important. If we do, then he says, it becomes easy to control the mind. So even in this Yogasana process, the idea is to focus on Krishna, or here in this case it is Paramatma or Chaitya Guru. That is also mentioned very clearly. So the idea is to control the mind and the senses. And then he says, he's then talking about that process is very difficult in this current age. Now if you see in the olden days, those days, the hundreds and thousands of years back, this process, as we already saw in the earlier verse, Ashtanga Yoga is something which is there even for a 5-year-old boy. It's like a normal thing. You don't have to teach ABCD for them. They know what is the process, how to do it, everything. But then that was possible in those age when the body was capable of performing these things. Today, in the context of today's world, it is very difficult. I remember one pastime of Prabhupada, where one time Prabhupada was walking along the beach in India. He was going, and then one devotee asked him, one of his disciples, so Prabhupada, can I try to learn this Yogasana very nicely, perfectly? And then, Prabhupada was just, for a minute, he was just thinking, and then he said, no need. You don't need to do all this, learn all these things. Because the idea is, then you will get so focused on getting this perfection in the yoga, then you will lose the purpose of why you are to do these things. So similarly, even earlier, one more time, another similar situation happened. One devotee was asking, therefore, Prabhupada, should I become an expert in Sanskrit? Should I, get into the depth of Sanskrit? Prabhupada said, no. Your objective is not to become a great Sanskrit scholar. Your objective is to become a great devotee. So the problem is sometimes we try to become so expert in that, then we lose the focus on why we are trying to become expert in that. Then we become so focused in the grammar and so many of those things. But of course that doesn't mean we should simply be jack of all trades. No, yeah, wherever our strengths are, we should try to build it up. But we should always remember the end result should be for Krishna. End result is always about my development in Krishna consciousness. So if I am a great, nice Kirtaniya, my objective should not simply be that, I should become, everybody should be so happy listening to my Kirtan. No. It for the pleasure of the devotees, for Krishna's devotees, I am singing. And this is just from that perspective and to elevate my consciousness. That should be when I'm giving a class. My idea should be, I should not about I should become a great, thing where everybody, I have so many followers. That is not the point. The point is how nicely I am speaking Prabhupada's words, that people are able to get it, because it is not my words, it is Prabhupada's words. Because we don't have that big realizations. But if you are able to give the mood of a realized person, then that will penetrate the heart. Not that what I say will penetrate the heart, because I have no realization whatsoever. So like this, if we are able to relate to all our day-to-day devotional service, then our progress will become very, very strong and faster. So that is important. Then somewhere along the line, Prabhupada is saying, he's talking on again about who you are focusing on, and that is the most important aspect, which is on, you have to focus on the Paramatma in the heart in the case of Ashtanga Yoga. And Prabhupada is explaining that Narada is clearly giving him instruction that you meditate on the supreme spiritual master, which is Krishna in this case. And Prabhupada is explaining that Krishna as a pure spiritual, the supreme spiritual master is actually the Paramatma in the heart in the material world. And then he says that supreme spiritual master is within. And then there is a without. Without means outside of the body, which is the actual spiritual master, who is the initiating spiritual master. So it is very important for everyone to take up initiation from a pure devotee of the Lord coming in the parampara process. And that is actually is direct representation of the Paramatma. So how do we see the spiritual master? We should see the spiritual master as a manifestation of the Chaitya Guru, who is the Paramatma in the heart. And even in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, sometimes someone is not very intelligent and all that, then how does he become Krishna conscious? And Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that I sitting in his heart will instruct him. This is the Chaitya Guru or the Paramatma Guru who he is talking about. And in all cases, the Chaitya Guru manifests. So if I show that desire, no, I want to become self-realized, I want to understand my constitutional position, I want to surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, immediately the Chaitya Guru, the Paramatma understands. He is the first Guru in that sense, that he understands, this boy or this girl or this soul wants to understand this. Therefore, he immediately sends his representative, the spiritual master. Therefore, when we see, all of us here will have our own experience of how we got our spiritual master. It is not like, just like, toss, you put a toss and then, you decide who is the spiritual master. We all have our calling, how we met our spiritual master first, how that inclination came to pick up that spiritual master. There is some story behind, there is some deep story behind. And therefore, the Paramatma sends the right spiritual master for us so that we can progress fast, looking at, he knows our mood, what is in our mind, and he picks up one of his representatives who can actually clear our consciousness nicely, very easily, and therefore he sends the right spiritual master. So it's very important that we take up to the spiritual master and look at that spiritual master as a direct representative of the Supreme Lord. In this case, he is saying that he is a representative of the Chaitya Guru, who is the Paramatma in the heart. That we should be very clear and not look at the spiritual master as an ordinary body. That, this is also an ordinary material body like us. And Prabhupada very clearly, yesterday I was hearing some other lecture of Srila Prabhupada there, he was saying that, when you are putting the iron in the fire, that becomes fire. Right? We have all heard this thing. He is talking somewhere in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, this slokas thing. So there he is saying, there he used particularly, he was saying, see, that is why those who are pure devotees, they are completely spiritualized. There is nothing material about them. So, and then he goes on to say, that is why if you see the sannyasis' bodies are not burnt. That means it is not material like anything that we burn it off. So they are actually put in, in the, how we put them in the, what do you call, we dig a thing, dig what do you call, samadhi in the ground, and then we lower them into that, then we add all the preservatives, and then we close the earth, and then we put up whatever, in Madhava line they put up actually a tulsi thing, they call that as a Vrindavana, like that. In our thing, I'm not sure, we don't put, I don't know if we put a tulsi plant on the samadhi, but we have a memorial on that, and then around that we are able to focus our devotion to their, like Prabhupada samadhi is there in Mayapur, it is there in Vrindavan. So Prabhupada explained this. So that means this body is not material. That body of a pure devotee is completely spiritual, almost like not the Supreme Lord, but like the Supreme Lord. So that is very important. So I conclude here. It's 9:02. If there are any quick questions, comments, welcome. Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Hare
Very
Krishna.
nice explanation. Just a small clarification. You said there are sometimes it takes 2-3 lifetimes to clear the anasat.
Yes.
A little extension on that, because we always say never again. We don't want another life.
Yes.
Because it's difficult. You don't know next time whether you'll get a human life, whether
Yes.
you'll become a devotee.
Yes.
I'm sure it is Guru and Krishna's mercy. It is also said in the Shastras that if we don't complete our spiritual progress in this life, you'll get a birth in a wealthy merchant's family or a Brahmana family to continue from where you have left it behind.
Yes.
But this clarification on 2-3 lifetimes to clear the anatta is something that I thought I should seek your clarification.
Yes, Prabhu. So as it is said, like, they say, okay, some people think if I take initiation, I will go back to Godhead. But then it is not like that. That, we need to, so similarly say, okay, you chant and you go in this lifetime. No, yes, I'm chanting, but if I am not focused on what I am doing, if I'm not, for example, there was a time when I think it is this Maharaj, the one who did the Ratha Yatra, right? Jayanand Prabhu. When he left the body, Prabhupada that day asked the devotees, did he finish his round before he left the body? Like that. And Prabhupada many a times has said, like, a spiritual master can take you back to Godhead provided you follow. Right? So these things are there. So, as devotees we know, and Prabhupada has said, you hold my dhoti, you can come back. Here I'm more stressing on our seriousness about it and not take it for granted. But for sure, this process of doing, so when I say process of doing, strictly following the regulative principles, chanting 16 rounds of Hare Krishna Mahamantra, not offending devotees, minimum. This much we should be very clear and doing in our life to have that guarantee of going back. Otherwise, it is like we are not following and therefore we are not going back. You understand? So this process is foolproof. If we really do it, we go back in this life. But if we are compromising, we cannot go back. So then, of course, we have started the journey. We are trying to do, and because of whatever reason, I am falling down. Falling down means not following regulative principles somewhere, not doing my rounds, whatever. And therefore, I am actually coming down. And in this process, I have started it, and I have this power, the pull of my Guru, the pull of spiritual Prabhupada. So maybe I will get another life and I will continue to progress, but it may take a couple of years, couple of janmas. But idea is we don't want that, as you rightly said, we don't want that. And I don't know, I don't know if I can quote this, but one time Kripamaya Prabhu told me that our spiritual master, my spiritual master, Isolna Jayapataka Swami Maharaj said, my disciples will come back in this lifetime, worst case in the next lifetime. So I don't know, maybe we should check with once more with Kripamaya Prabhu. So that means if there are some of us who has little lack in our devotional life, maybe we may not go back, but we may go back in the next life. This is something which we need to be mindful of and not try to get into that bucket. I want to go back in this life. My class today is more focused on ourselves becoming more serious so that, we are slightly not slack. That is the idea, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Does it answer?
Very helpful. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? Hare Krishna. Okay, so if nothing, thank you all very much. I slightly exceeded the time. Apologies for that. Thank you all very much for your time. Hare Krishna. Antra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you.